Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is someone to watch as we enter a new era of a Biden administration, and his opening shot comes mere 6 days in to Joe's 100-day plan. This, of course, is the plan of Joe Biden to undo all of the presidency of Donald Trump as best as he can. He and the Democrats have a goal, and that's to make it so that Trump never existed. They're still really, really salty that President Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election and everything that followed. So their plan is to reverse it, to get the opposite, to undo the effects of Trump. And part of that plan started with a bunch of executive orders that Joe Biden signed on his first day in office. I believe it was more executive orders than have ever been signed by any president on the first day, because they know that Congress takes time to get rolling. And though they have picked up a majority, or they have tied up the Senate, which gives them a de facto majority because Kamala Harris is the tie-breaking vote, they also still have their majority in the House, though it's by a smaller margin. They effectively still have enough people to push through most of the legislation that they would want to hit. That, however, will take some time. So Joe is just ruling by executive fiat right now, because he's not a tyrant or anything. But that being said, Ken Paxton has put a stop to one part of the plan, and that is a 100-day ban on deportation. Like I said, part of this plan is to undo all of Trump's presidency, and a big chunk of that is amnesty for people who are in the United States illegally. This is millions of potential new people being given permanent status or even a path to citizenship, and most importantly, buying votes for the Democrats. Like, let's be real, that has been the goal of Democrats and amnesty for a very long time. The idea that you bring millions of people in, promise them a bunch of programs, and then eventually give them legal status. And if you do that and they become voters, then the presumption is they will vote for the party who gave them a bunch of stuff. That is the quintessential idea of this sort of immigration policy. But that has been thwarted for decades, really, by Republican administrations and Republican Congresses who have decided to hold up on actually granting that amnesty and significantly changing immigration law. That has been deadlocked for, I don't know, about 40, 50 years. But they're hoping to change all that. This 100-day deportation ban was to keep as many people here when they were planning to get amnesty passed as possible. So Ken Paxton, though, says, no. You don't get to do that here, right? Texas has a right to not be burdened with the fallout of the federal government not enforcing its immigration policies. In fact, they had an agreement with the Trump administration that there wouldn't be any bans or any changes, significant changes to the enforcement of deportations without some sort of discussion and disclosure to the states. Joe didn't do it. Now, of course, Joe Biden's argument is, hey, wait a minute. The past actions, the actions of a previous president can't bind the actions of a future president. Aha, except you idiots did this to Trump his entire term. Anytime Donald Trump wanted to change any sort of Democrat-favored program, even if they were just executive orders from Barack Obama, he was prevented from doing so by federal courts. Well, now Joe Biden is going to get a taste of that medicine coming right back from the Republicans. Now, this temporary restraining order did go into effect. This has effectively stopped the 100-day deportation ban, and deportations will presumably commence as normal. I would expect that Joe will be fighting against this. They will probably appeal this order, or they will modify the executive order and force another lawsuit. These are the back and forths that we can expect, but it is fun to see Texas, particularly Texas, doing this. Now, a little bit of backstory on Texas attorney generals and solicitor generals and the state in itself. Okay, the state in general. Texas attorney generals and solicitor generals have a history of doing this because Texas itself seems to hold on to its state identity and its independence and its independent spirit better than most other states. Now, every state is an actual individual sovereign entity. In fact, they have sovereign immunity in the same way that the federal government does, and they have some exclusive things that the federal government can't really reach into. For example, if you charge someone with a state crime, the president of the United States cannot pardon someone for that state crime. The state actually has jurisdictional authority over its own criminal code. And so, if you're charged and convicted of a state crime, you have to go to your own governor for a pardon. Now, this independence has been blurred quite a bit, starting really with Reconstruction after the Civil War. The implementation of the 14th Amendment and its application has severely curbed just how independent states have been. But some states, and Texas in particular, have held on to at least the spirit of independence. You've probably heard the joke where a bunch of Americans and a Texan walk into a bar or something like that. Some sort of idea that that Texan identity is something to be valued and is beyond even your national identity. I think it was Marcus Luttrell who someone said, "Are you American?" He said, "No, I'm a Texan." Right? Like this attitude. I grew up in Texas. I know all about it. I remember the campaigns. Don't mess with Texas. State pride was actually a big thing. Texas history is taught specifically to children. Up here in Minnesota, I don't recall ever learning Minnesota history until I was 35. That's just how it goes. But Texas has held on to that spirit, and it harkens back to a different time. But all states are basically the same under the law. There are some minor quirks and agreements between the states and the federal governments, but even those have kind of really fallen by the wayside. It's about the spirit of the people. And when the Texas administration and the U.S. administration are at odds politically, we see sparks fly. We see a very animated and active litigation session. And if you don't know this, Ted Cruz actually rose to prominence by doing this, suing the United States government over and over and over. Actually, he and Greg Abbott, the current governor of Texas. This is a very popular thing with Texans. It hits really hard, especially on the Republican base, and it hits those heart fires of Texans and their spirit of independence and state identity. To say, hey, the feds don't get to make all the rules, and you don't get to tell Texas what to do so easily. Remember, we're here because we wanted to be here, not because you demanded us to be here. That is something that rings very true in Texas, and we'll be watching because I expect lots more litigation coming from Ken Paxton's office against the state or against the United States on behalf of Texas, and he will be instrumental in fighting Joe Biden's agenda, probably because of that. So if you like these kind of videos with some legal analysis, commentary, and opinion, and political analysis, commentary, and opinion, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, share the video, let people know what's going on in the world, and also drop a comment below. Tell me what you think about Texas. Should they get in Joe's way? Should they stay out of Joe's way? What do you think about amnesty? I'd like to know what you think. Always love to hear your thoughts. Thanks a bunch. Until next time, peace. Peace.